When someone disrespects you, your first instinct might be to question yourself. Did I do something wrong? Am I not good enough? But the truth is, most of the time, disrespect is a reflection of the person giving it, not the one receiving it. People who go out of their way to belittle, ignore, or devalue others often carry wounds of their own. They project their insecurities, frustrations, and unresolved pain onto others because they don't know how to handle their own emotional. Their behavior is not a mirror of your worth, but rather a window into their own inner disorder. Think about it. When someone is genuinely confident and self-assured, they don't feel the need to put others down. Respectful people don't mock, belittle, or try to dominate. They listen, they engage, and they recognize the humanity in others. So when someone doesn't respect you, it's important to pause and consider that their actions likely stem from internal conflict, not your inner. This shift in perspective is powerful. It prevents you from internalizing their negativity and taking it personally. It allows you to maintain your emotional equilibrium and dignity even when someone else is trying to tear it down. This doesn't mean you excuse the behavior. It means you understand it for what it is, an emotional signal, a warning light. And when you see it that way, you gain the upper hand. You no longer react with confusion or desperation, you respond with clarity. You stop needing their validation because you realize they aren't capable of offering it in a healthy way to begin with. People who operate from a place of respect see others through a lens of empathy. People who don't are often blind to anything but their own narrative. Understanding that disrespect is about them, not you, also frees you from the trap of over-explaining or trying to win them over. The leader who understands that disrespect is about them, not you, also frees you from the trap of over-explaining or trying to win them over. You don't need to prove your worth to someone who is committed to misunderstanding you. You don't need to shrink yourself to fit their limited view. Your value doesn't fluctuate based on someone else's opinion. In fact, people often disrespect what they can't control or what they don't understand. Sometimes your strength, your kindness, your success, or your calm presence can trigger someone who hasn't cultivated those qualities in themselves. Their reaction isn't about your flaws, it's about their fear of their own inadequacy. And then there's another layer. Some people test others intentionally. They want to see how much they can get away with. They want to see whether you will tolerate poor behavior. And if you don't understand that their actions are about their own psychology, you might fall into the trap of tolerating it, just to keep the peace. But real peace never comes from accepting disrespect. It comes from having the courage to recognize when someone is out of alignment with your values and your standards. Every time someone disrespects you, you're being given a choice. Not just how to respond, but how to view yourself. You can either let their behavior define you, or you can see it for what it is, a reflection of their own internal struggle. When you make this mental shift, you start to move from being reactive to being intentional. You stop living on the emotional terms of others. You reclaim your power, not by confronting them with anger, but by grounding yourself in the truth of who you are. And that truth is not up for debate, especially not by someone who can't even see past their own pain. When someone consistently disrespects you, the most empowering response isn't to argue, beg, or retaliate. It's to set firm boundaries. Boundaries are not about being rude or pushing people away. They are about defining what is and isn't acceptable in your life. They're a form of self-respect. If someone keeps stepping on your values or treating you with disregard, it's not your job to change them. It's your job to protect your space. And that means drawing a line in the sand that says, you can't treat me this way and still have access to my energy. Many people are uncomfortable setting boundaries because they fear conflict. They worry they'll seem harsh, unkind, or overly sensitive. But the truth is, people who benefit from your lack of boundaries are often the ones who push back the hardest when you finally start enforcing them. That doesn't mean you're doing something wrong. It means you're finally doing something right. You're taking ownership of your time, your peace, and your emotional well-being. You're choosing not to be a passive participant in your own mistreatment. Setting boundaries isn't about yelling or making dramatic announcements. It's about clear communication backed by consistent action. If someone speaks to you with condescension, you don't have to match their tone. You calmly say, "I don't appreciate being spoken to like that," and you walk away if the behavior continues. If someone interrupts you constantly or talks over you, you let them know it's not acceptable, and if they keep doing it, you limit your interactions with them. The power lies not in making a scene, but in making a choice. You don't have to justify your boundary. You don't have to explain it endlessly. You just have to stand by it. When you set a boundary, you're not trying to control another person. You're controlling what you allow in your life. You're saying, "I won't lower my standards just to be tolerated." This is where your self-worth begins to flourish. Because every time you protect your peace, you reinforce to yourself that you are valuable, that your comfort matters, that your emotional safety is not up for compromise. It's important to remember that boundaries are not walls. They don't block out connection, they filter out disrespect. When someone genuinely values you, they'll respect your boundaries, even if they don't fully understand them. The people who truly care about you won't need you to diminish yourself to stay in their lives. On the other hand, those who resist your boundaries often reveal their true intentions. They weren't in your life to honor you. They were there to benefit from your silence, your compliance, your inability to say no. Boundaries also help you gain clarity. When you begin to enforce them, you quickly see who respects you and who doesn't. You realize who is willing to meet you halfway and who only shows up when things are convenient for them. This awareness may be painful, but it's also liberating. It gives you the power to curate your environment, to choose who gets to influence your mindset, your emotions, your daily energy. People who consistently disrespect you often rely on the fact that you won't do anything about it. They assume you'll keep tolerating, keep forgiving, keep giving chances without any real consequences. But the moment you set a firm boundary, you change the dynamic. You stop playing by their rules and start operating from a place of self-defined strength. You're no longer reacting to their behavior. You're leading with your standards. That's not just self-respect. That's personal leadership. When you're disrespected, your emotions naturally flare up. Anger, frustration, sadness, or even humiliation can surge through your system, urging you to react instantly. But reacting emotionally often leads to outcomes you later regret. That's why responding with calm authority is so powerful. It's not about suppressing your emotions, but about mastering them. Calmness is not weakness. It's control. They want to pull you down to their level so they can feel powerful. But when you remain calm, when you don't match their emotional volatility, they lose that power. You become untouchable, not because you're indifferent, but because you're disciplined. Your calmness becomes a mirror that reflects their chaos, forcing them to confront their own behavior without you ever having to raise your voice. Responding with calm authority means speaking with clarity and firmness. It means being assertive without aggression. You don't have to yell to make a point. You don't have to attack to defend yourself. A simple, direct statement said with confidence can cut deeper than 100 emotional outbursts. I don't tolerate being spoken to like that. I choose not to engage in conversations that lack respect. These words, said with steady tone and unwavering eye contact, carry weight. Not because they're loud, but because they come from someone who respects themselves. This approach also earns you credibility. People respect those who stay composed under pressure. They may not agree with you, but they'll remember that you didn't lose yourself trying to win an argument. Emotional outbursts might feel good in the moment, but they often lead to more disrespect. You show people how to treat you by how you treat yourself in moments of tension. When you demonstrate emotional maturity, you set a standard that others must rise to if they want to interact with you. Calm authority also gives you space to think clearly. When you're not hijacked by emotions, you can assess the situation rationally. Is this person worth your time? Is this a relationship that can be repaired, or is it one you need to distance yourself from? Emotions cloud judgment, but calmness brings perspective. And with perspective, you gain the freedom to make decisions that align with your values rather than your impulses. This doesn't mean you become passive or let people walk all over you, quite the opposite. It means you stand your ground in a way that commands respect. You don't stoop to their level, you elevate the interaction. Even if they continue to behave poorly, you've already won, because you didn't lose control, you kept your dignity intact, and over time, this way of being builds a reputation. You become known as someone who doesn't tolerate nonsense, who doesn't flinch under pressure, and who handles confrontation with poise. Makes it hard for anyone to rattle you, no matter how much they try. One of the most effective ways to protect your peace and your self-respect is to withdraw your energy from people who continually disrespect you. Energy is your most valuable currency. Where you place it determines your focus, your emotional stability, and even your future. When you keep giving your attention to people who belittle you, ignore your worth, or constantly undermine you, you're feeding a dynamic that slowly eats away at your confidence. But the moment you begin to pull back, quietly, calmly, without drama, you begin reclaiming your power. Withdrawing your energy doesn't mean cutting people off with anger. It means becoming unavailable for chaos. It means stepping back from conversations that go nowhere, arguments that serve no purpose, and interactions that leave you feeling drained and devalued. Some people thrive on conflict. Some only feel significant when they create tension, and the more you engage with them, the more fuel they get. But when you stop giving them your reactions, when you stop making them the center of your emotional world, they lose control over you. It becomes impossible for them to manipulate your inner state. This kind of withdrawal is subtle but powerful. It's in the way you stop explaining yourself to someone who's committed to misunderstanding you. It's in the way you reduce the time you spend around them, not out of resentment, but out of self-respect. It's in the way you no longer seek validation from them because you've finally accepted they're not capable of giving it in a healthy way. You stop chasing approval and instead start honoring your own boundaries. That's not avoidance, it's wisdom. Sometimes the most powerful statement you can make is silence. Not because you're giving up, but because you've outgrown the need to defend your worth. You understand that not every battle is yours to fight. You understand that not every person deserves a front row seat in your life. People who repeatedly show you disrespect are teaching you something about themselves. When someone shows you who they are through their actions, believe them, and act accordingly. This process also allows you to conserve energy for what really matters. Your growth, your purpose, your well-being. The time and emotional bandwidth you use to spend trying to fix or please someone who doesn't value you can now be redirected toward things that uplift you. You begin to surround yourself with people who nourish your spirit rather than deplete it. You begin to invest in relationships that reflect mutual respect, not manipulation or control. And in doing so, your sense of peace deepens. You no longer live in reaction to other people's dysfunction. The strength it takes to pull back is often underestimated. Society tells you to keep trying, keep fixing, keep forgiving, without limits. But there's nothing noble about constantly giving to someone who gives you nothing but disrespect in return. Real strength is knowing when enough is enough. Real maturity is recognizing that your energy isn't infinite and treating it like the treasure it is. The more selective you become with where you invest your attention, the more powerful you become, that leave you feeling powerless. You're no longer a participant in someone else's dysfunction. You rise above it, not by fighting harder, but by choosing peace over chaos, clarity over confusion, and self-respect over approval. You shift from being reactive to intentional, from being drained to empowered. The people you allow into your life play a massive role in how you see yourself, how you handle challenges, and how you respond to disrespect. When you're constantly surrounded by individuals who don't share your values, who thrive on drama, who manipulate or who dismiss your feelings, it's easy to start doubting your worth. You begin to internalize their chaos. But when you intentionally surround yourself with people who reflect your values, those who operate with respect, integrity, and authenticity, you reinforce a healthier image of yourself. You start to see that respect is not something you have to beg for. It's something you naturally attract by who you are and who you associate with. The environment you create for yourself is either a reflection of your standards or a reflection of your tolerance for disrespect. People who respect you challenge you in ways that build you, not break you. They don't belittle you in front of others. They don't dismiss your ideas or mock your dreams. Instead, they support, uplift, and hold you accountable with love, not control. Their presence reinforces that you are worthy of kindness, support, and understanding. They don't need to compete with you, manipulate you, or keep you small in order to feel secure themselves. When you spend time with people who reflect your values, you begin to build a new normal. You begin to realize that healthy communication isn't a luxury, it's a standard. That being treated with consideration and kindness isn't asking for too much, it's the bare minimum. And when this becomes your baseline, you're less likely to tolerate disrespect in any form. Your internal compass gets sharper. You become more aware of red flags. You recognize toxic behavior faster. And more importantly, you stop making excuses for it. Having the right people around you also helps you stay grounded during moments of doubt. When you're disrespected, it's easy to feel isolated, to wonder if you're reacting or being too sensitive. But when you have people who genuinely care about you and uphold the same principles, they remind you of your truth. They validate your experience without feeding your anger. They give you the strength to walk away from harmful situations with your head high, not because you're better than anyone else, but because you've simply outgrown relationships rooted in disrespect. It's also worth understanding that not everyone will share your standards. And that's okay. You're not here to change everyone. You're here to live your values, to embody them, and to attract those who resonate with them. The more consistent you are in living by what you believe, the more naturally you'll draw in people who do the same. And as you build a community, no matter how small, of individuals who live with intention, honesty, and respect, you begin to rise together. There's strength in alignment, There's peace in being around people who don't require you to constantly explain your worth, respect others, gossip, lie, or manipulate. It becomes easy to normalize that behavior. Even if you don't act that way, their mindset seeps into your world. But when you're surrounded by people who live with purpose, who treat others with compassion, who walk away from toxicity instead of entertaining it, you grow in that same direction. Their actions validate your own efforts to stay grounded and maintain your dignity, even when others try to undermine it. Your circle should be a reflection of your future, not your past. It should support the person you're becoming, not drag you back into patterns you fought hard to escape. When you choose to be around people who live with respect for themselves and for others, you raise your own standard, not out of pressure, but out of inspiration. You begin to see clearly that the people in your life are not just company, they're influence. They either pull you closer to your values or away from them. And once you realize the power of that, you no longer entertain anyone who doesn't meet that standard. One of the most profound ways to handle people who don't respect you is to become someone who lives with unwavering self-respect. You don't need to announce it, you don't need to prove it, you simply embody it. In how you walk, how you speak, how you treat others, and most importantly, how you treat yourself. Respecting yourself means not chasing people who treat you like an option. It means not participating in conversations where your voice is dismissed or ridiculed. It means not staying in places where you have to fight for basic decency. The moment you start respecting yourself on a soul level, you start moving differently. You no longer ask, "Why don't they value me?" You begin asking, "Why am I still here when they don't?" That shift in perspective is the beginning of transformation. It's the line between surviving and thriving. When you respect yourself, you stop negotiating your value. You no longer tie your worth to how others perceive you. You recognize that not everyone will understand your depth, not everyone will appreciate your kindness, and not everyone is meant to walk beside you. And that's okay. Because you've made peace with who you are, and you're no longer willing to bend just to be accepted. You understand that shrinking yourself to avoid rejection is its own form of disrespect, and you refuse to do that anymore. This internal standard begins to influence every part of your life. You start choosing better relationships, healthier environments, more meaningful goals. You no longer waste time trying to prove yourself to people who have already made the decision not to see you. You rise above the noise. You start attracting individuals who meet you with mutual respect, because like attracts like. The more you elevate your sense of self-worth, the more you naturally repel those who operate from manipulation, ego, or disrespect. There is also a quiet freedom in self-respect. You don't need to explain your decisions. You don't feel guilty for prioritizing your well-being. You don't absorb every insult or negative comment as a reflection of your identity. You become unshakable, not because life stops being hard, but because you've become grounded in truth. And in that truth, you discover that the way people treat you is a reflection of them, but the way you allow it is a reflection of you. Self-respect teaches you to listen to your inner voice more than the noise around you. It helps you recognize when you're being devalued, even subtly. It gives you the strength to walk away, quietly, with your head held high, even when your heart wants to stay. It reminds you that peace is more valuable than attention, and authenticity is more important than approval. When you master the art of self-respect, you no longer chase respect from others. It finds you. because people recognize that you won't tolerate anything less